we are here to be part of the Time to Talk. We do believe it's really time to talk now in this part of Europe, in Austria, in Slovakia, in Czech Republic. Freedom of speech, that we have lots of things to talk about, and we have two very distinguished guests. Isn't it a paradox that it has nothing to do with the economical side of the world, that how people still trust opportunistic leaders, opportunistic politicians, authoritarian regimes, and aren't you disappointed with this development as someone who still had this dissident past, and part of this change was also this economical. We thought that with the economic development somehow the civic society will develop as well.
It is, and I mix it between disappointment and being scared of what's going on. But I think it has nothing to do with the economical situation. People they live fine. It's about, I see it in a broader picture as a kind of almost apocalyptic battle between truth and lie, which is now in a enormous. It's a huge. All world is a huge battlefield. You see it in USA as well. It's not. It has nothing to do with economic reasons. The paradox is, democracy is now scared, and now our world is scared of lie. What we are facing now is a huge danger of lie, which a democratic world is just under the big pressure of lie. I see this as a paradox between past and present, and I wonder, have we any tool how to fight with that lie? And I'm not sure. I was thinking about, what about that paragraph in today, if it could be used not for lie itself, but for the hatred, for somebody who against something which against somebody who says, I want to kill you. What could we do? I see the lie as the biggest tool how to create hatred. On internet, you see the lie as a tool how to outrage people to become people full of hatred who would like to kill. And that's what I see. This is a battle. Well, the truth, of course, the truth. It's not a. But you still. The problem is that today in the traditional media, they are still by democratic tradition looking for truth, more or less. And they have tools for that, and they also have their names behind that. And you have now two worlds: the world which is in decline of traditional media, which by tradition are looking for truth. That's their mission. And then you have the alternative, so-called alternative media, where without no names, no authors, where pure lie is in a huge amount come out. And that's why I see it as a battleground. All this space is actually the battle between truth based on rational recognition of what you can say about facts, and the lie which is on purpose. It's a lie which is it is a lie which it's a devil who knows that that's his tool. And people don't understand that. And the last sentence, and what you see is the result of that is that even politicians can say lies, but in such a huge amount of lies, they didn't have no time to oppose, because there are too many.
Da stimme ich hundertprozentig zu, das finde ich ganz fantastisch, wie das der Milan Martin sagt. In Österreich hat es immer wieder diese Bilder gegeben von Flüchtlingen, wie die zum Beispiel die U-Bahn hinterlassen. Es wurde erst später wieder erklärt, dass das eigentlich Fußballfans waren. Man hat auch keine Chance diesbezüglich. Deshalb glaube ich einfach, die einzige Chance, also wirklich fantastisch gesagt, alles kann ich nur unterschreiben, aber die Chance ist einfach eine Sache der Stimmung. Der Stimmung und einfach des Mutes, nämlich sich gar nicht mehr darum zu kümmern, was die da veröffentlichen, weil man sowieso keine Chance hat. Die Chance ist einfach was anderes zu sagen. Und das ist für mich das Beispiel gewesen, Entschuldigung, mit dem Dankmal oder so. Also das ist einfach, also das ist meine Vorstellung jedenfalls. Also das ist einfach eine andere, einfach auch eine andere Wirklichkeit.
Stefan, du bist ein Dissident.
Ja, ich bin ein Dissident, muss sagen, wurde auch immer wieder von der Polizei bewacht diesbezüglich, also unterstützt, dass mir eigentlich nichts passiert in dem Sinne.
Sorry, now we'll have Matthew helping the English-speaking viewers.
Okay, so Stefan said that he fully agrees with Martin, and that, for example, he quoted a few examples that have happened in Vienna with images of migrants coming out of the tube in masses, where it later turned out that they weren't actually migrants, but they'd been football fans, but obviously the attention had been on the bad behaviour and this group dynamic. And he says that therefore he doesn't really see a chance to contend with that, and actually what's more important is to create a different atmosphere by use of different language, and that's why he used this example with the Denkmäler and the Dankmäler, so that we can change it a little bit and to create our own atmosphere.
Der Herrenmensch wacht auf und isst schon besser. Dem Frühstück ist er haushoch überlegen. Zu Mittag ist er bereits hochanständig. Nur nachts albträumt er von Mann und Frau. Und für mich ist das der Grund. Das ist die ganze Geschichte. Alles andere ist irgendwie... Es ist, was passiert ist, was noch mehr passiert ist, als früher am Anfang, wie der Milan so toll erklärt hat, ist das die Desolidarisierung der Gesellschaft. Es geht um nichts anderes als diese Desolidarisierung der Gesellschaft, indem der Einzelne anders handelt, irgendwie versucht, das wiederherzustellen. So sehe ich das.
I'm not going to try and translate the poem. I think I'll more or less say what the poem said, and that's that the gentleman gets up in the morning and everything is suddenly better. He feels himself superior to everything around him, and it's at night that the concerns return and that he gets these nightmares. And for Stefan, this is sort of an example of the main problem with society today, which is the lack of solidarity, which is people turning into their own worlds and this solidarity with others disappearing.
Well, and I think that's we can of course talk about what happened to society as such, but we see the same in the USA. I mean, in Great Britain you have such a stupid statements. I mean, extreme.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that it was possible in Great Britain. And today, I mean, even sometimes even worse than here. But I think that we can talk about the reasons, about the frustration of society, of whatever. But I think the vicious circle where it started was that it began with internet again. You have this vicious circle. Then the internet is allowed to say things, and on social media, which are not persecuted because it's freedom of speech. And then what happened by coming, especially, I think that the crucial role plays Facebook, mostly social media. because internet as such wasn't still so strong. I remember that in year 2000s, it was already strong, but there was no Facebook, there were no social media, so it was still focused on these traditional media with the commentaries behind. I mean, it was not so strong. And now social media are actually, and the possibility to create websites, thousands of them, for nothing, like this.
Also da kann ich nur hundertprozentig zustimmen und also sicher ganz wichtig und richtig. Es zeigt sich in Österreich jetzt nur kurz gesagt, obwohl das eigentlich es hat eine Wahl gegeben im Burgenland, einem unterentwickelten Land, das hohe Förderung der EU bekommen hat. Und da ist die Sozialdemokratie eine Kooperation mit der FPÖ eingegangen. Und für mich war das eine Katastrophe. Und das zeigt sich jetzt. Es muss klare Grenzen geben. Das heißt konkret, wenn die Sozialdemokratie mit diesen Faschisten etwas eingeht, brechen die Dämme. Und das ist passiert und das haben wir jetzt. Das ist die Geschichte.
Stefan talks about the example of the recent provincial elections in Burgenland, which he says is an underdeveloped, very much from the EU-funded part of the southeast of Austria, where the SPO, the Social Democrats, have gone into government with the FPO, the extreme right party, which we've been discussing, and he talked about how this had a disastrous effect, how this in his opinion was a disaster because it broke down the borders. It made the FPO more acceptable than they'd been beforehand, and it allowed them to come into the government and to come into normal public discourse in a way that they couldn't before.
Also Beispiel, wir haben zum Beispiel der Kanzleramtsminister, der hat zum Beispiel ein Gedicht bei ihm in seinem Büro hängen, also im Gang zu seinem Büro, das jeder sieht. Und das Gedicht heißt: Mich stört nur mein Hang zur Diktatur.
Stefan said, for example, that there's a minister in the Chancellery in Vienna who has one of his poems on his wall, and this poem says, "The only thing that bothers me is my own tendency to dictatorial behaviour."
But it's a fascinating one thing. You mentioned Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn. Yes, you're right. But the fascinating thing,
what?
Jeremy Corbyn and Sanders in the US.
Yeah.
I mean, they are all they brought or bring young voters, mostly younger.
Yeah.
The fascinating thing, and you can mention Podemos in Spain or whatever.
Yeah.
What happened in Central Europe is that the same young people who in Britain or US vote for Sanders, here vote for Kotlova, for fascists.
Yeah.
And the same is the case in Hungary, the same in Poland,
Also
Czech, and Austria. And you have to ask, what happened to Central Europe? Why the young people are right radicals? Why are not that left radicals? That's and that's the question. I mean, it would be another debate.